Hi, sixth graders. This lesson is on solving multiplication equations. So write that at the top of your page for your notes. So let's think about if addition reverses subtraction and subtraction reverses addition, which is what we did on our last video notes for solving one-step addition and subtraction equations. Then what will reverse multiplication in an equation? And we talked about that division is the opposite of multiplication. So the division property of equality is if you divide each side of an equation by the same non-zero number, the two sides remain equal. Going back to our solving equations, remember whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. This is just a reminder of the steps for solving one-step equations, the exact same steps that you wrote down in the adding and subtracting equations notes video. But if you don't have it in your notebook, take a second and write it down. Otherwise, find it and kind of star it and make sure that you know to go back to it so you can remember. But we write the equation, we draw the train tracks, isolate the variable, solve for the variable, and then we always check. Let's do some problems together. So if we have 4x equals 32, we know that x is being multiplied by 4. And remember, when there's a number next to the variable, it always means multiplication. So 4x means 4 times x. I do my train tracks. The opposite of multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide both sides by 4. You should be writing this down in your notebook as well. And notice that I used the line like a fraction, or it looks like a fraction, but that also means division. And if we pull this over here, you don't have to write this down, but I just want you to see 4x divided by 4 is the same as 4/4 x. And we know that 4/4 is the same as 1, so that would be 1x, and 1x is just the same as x. So remember, we're trying to isolate our variable and get it alone, so that's why we're dividing by 4, because 1 times x is x. In adding and subtracting, we were trying to get it to 0 because 0 plus x is 0. But if we got it to 0 here, 0 times x would be 0, and then that would not be what we want. So I usually just cross that off again, and then we have x equals 32 divided by 4 is 8. And then just like always, we go back to our equation. 4 times 8 equals 32. 32 equals 32. It checks, and then we circle. So here, instead of putting 4x, I put 4 times 8 because that's what we got with our solution. All right, next one, negative 5x equals 55. So we're going to do our train tracks. X is being multiplied by negative 5, so that means we are dividing by negative 5. We keep the negative sign with the 5. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 is 1, so we just have x. And then 55 divided by negative 5 is going to be negative 11. Different signs means negative. So then we check. Negative 5 times negative 11 equals 55 because same signs equals positive. And then 55 equals 55, which checks. So then we have x equals negative 11. And then last one that we're going to do together, 3x equals negative 27. So we're going to do our tracks. Because x is being multiplied by 3, we're going to do the opposite and divide by 3. Notice that I just keep it nice and neat and write it right underneath. Cancel that out. X equals 27 divided by 3 is 9, but because we have a negative, it's going to be negative 9. And then 3 times negative 9 equals negative 27, which it does because now we have different signs, which means negative. So then it checks out. You do these 3 equations on your own. Pause the video. And then, there's 4. We're going to do these 3 right here. Pause the video, do them, and then come back and check your work. Alrighty, so here's my work. Negative 48 equals 8h. I'm going to divide both sides by 8. And so then I get Negative 48 divided by 8 is negative 6. I just flipped it around because remember the last time I said I like the variable on the left side. So h equals negative 6. And then I put negative 8 times negative 6 to check that it equals negative 48, and it does. So h equals negative 6. 6 equals negative 18f. So this one is going to be a fraction because negative 18 times something equals 6. So that means it has to be something less than 1 to get me a smaller number. So if you accidentally got 3, and then if you would have checked it, negative 18 times 3 is not 6. So then hopefully you realize that was not correct. So we're dividing both by 18, and I get negative 6/18, which if I divide them both by 6 to simplify, I would get negative 1/3. So then I check. 6 equals negative 18 times negative 1/3, and this would be negative 18 over negative 3, which ends up to be 6. So f equals negative 1/3. And then 17x equals 51. I divide both sides by 17 to get 3, and I check it, and it works. So x equals 3. Okay, we're going to do a couple of word problems. Mrs. Acosta's car can travel an average of 24 miles on each gallon of gas. Write and solve an equation to find how many gallons of gas she will need for a trip of 348 miles. So I know that she goes 24 miles per gallon of gas, and we want to know how many gallons for 348 miles. So 24G equals 348. We're going to do our tracks. We're going to divide both sides by 24, and then we have 348 divided by 24, and we get, G equals 14.5 gallons. And then I'm going to check it, and I'm going to do 24 times 14.5, and I'm going to stick that in my calculator, 24 times 14.5, and I get 348. So that checks, and then we can circle it. All right, last one that we're going to do. The tortoise is one of the slowest land animals, reaching an average top speed of about 2,500 miles per hour. At this speed, how long will it take a tortoise to travel 1.5 miles? So we're going to take 2,500 miles per hour, and we want to know how many hours it will take for the tortoise to go 1.5 miles. So h is being multiplied by 2,500 because for every hour it goes 2,500 miles, and we're figuring out how many miles or how many hours for 1.5. So we're going to divide both sides by 2,500. My answer is going to be greater than 1.5 because remember for every hour I'm only going, or the tortoise is only going 1/4 mile. So it has to go 4 hours just to get 1 mile. So that cancels, and then we do 1.5 divided by 0.25, and we get 6. So then let's check that. 0.25 times 6 is 1.5, which it is. So then we know that at this speed, how long will it take a tortoise to travel 1.5 miles? It would be 6 hours. That is all I have for you. Make sure you have your notes the next time you are in class. Have a great day.